And good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be around the world. I'm Marcus Holmes, and we are live on LinkedIn Live, YouTube events, Twitch TV, and on Facebook and the Love and Stuff page. As I told you yesterday, we talked with folks in North Carolina, folks in Texas, trying to make our way to all of the battleground states just to encourage anybody who might still be on the fence about voting. You still have time to get out there. And so today we're talking with Dr. Clarence E. Wright from the Pennsylvania, great state of Pennsylvania. He is a very accomplished leader and pastor in that area, senior pastor of the Love Zion Baptist Church in Philadelphia since 2013. Bachelor's, master's, and doctorate all earned from very prestigious schools. Life and career has been devoted to public service, including community economic development, homeless advocacy, anti-violence initiatives, service in the local church, and international missions on 5 continents. And so I want to bring him right in. He has taken some time out to talk to us while he is advocating and doing work around the polls, providing lunch and all of those great things. Husband, father, pastor, excuse me. Dr. Clarence Wright joins us. Thank you, Dr. Wright, for joining us. I appreciate you so much.
Glad to be here.
And glad to have you. Listen, I talked with some pastors in North Carolina and Texas yesterday about battleground states. Now, here in Michigan, we can register same day, but I don't think that's the case in Pennsylvania. Folks will have already had to register. Is that correct?
Yeah, the deadline to register was October 19th in Pennsylvania. Okay. So up until that point, you could have done everything at the same site. You could have walked up, registered, request your mail-in ballot, and filled it out and deposited at the same time. After the 19th, you could still return your ballots to the drop box, but you couldn't register after that. So registration has passed, but you can still vote today.
Yeah, and just speaking to that voter today who haven't decided to go to the poll, Dr. Wright, or that voter who is still undecided, what would you say to him or her at this moment about getting to the polls before 8:00 p.m.?
Well, I think it's crucial, and particularly in this state, it makes a significant difference. Every vote makes a difference. If you look at all of the pundits on, what have you, CNN, MSNBC, even Fox, they're all saying Pennsylvania is crucial. And there's several crucial swing states. I know your state, Michigan, is one of them. Pennsylvania is one of the most crucial of the crucial states. And the winner of Pennsylvania has a good shot of winning the whole thing. It's also important because 4 years ago, the current president won Pennsylvania by just a little over 40,000 votes. 40,000 votes. And that may sound like a lot until you realize that there were more than 200,000 registered African Americans who did not vote in 2016. So if only a quarter of them, going by registration and party affiliation, if only a quarter of those Black folk who did not vote in 2016 had voted, Pennsylvania would have went blue in 2016. So it's crucial. But I'm encouraged because there's been more than 2 million votes have already been cast before today, just through the mail-in and drop box process. And despite that, today, a lot of people were expecting the election sites to be ghost towns today because so many people have voted in bad. It's quite the opposite. There are lines wrapped around the block at many locations voting today, in addition to the more than 2 million who have already voted. So I'm feeling encouraged, but we got to pray and we got to vote, because I was feeling encouraged 4 years ago as well. So we don't want to rest on our laurels and think we're all right. This is not close to over. So if you have not voted, please go to your polling place.
Okay. I was going to ask you kind of went into it a little bit. What's the climate like there in Philadelphia and other areas? I mean, when you say 40,000 people, that doesn't seem like, for some, it would seem like a lot, but for some folks, putting that in perspective, that's a small town, right? And so what's the climate like there?
In one word, the climate here is festive. There is I'm gonna say something crazy, but honestly, I was active in 2008 when President Obama was elected,
Mhm.
and we know that we had to get to that level of participation. And this feels a lot like '08. It feels a
Okay.
lot like '08.
Okay.
There's, I mean, there are block parties going on, people playing music, people having parties, bus tours. I know the Philadelphia Eagles have a bus tour going around to the different locations where some of the players are waving at people and getting them engaged. Uh, uh, Vice President Biden is here. In fact, he held me up in traffic getting here, but I believe he was in Cleveland earlier today, and he made his way over here to the Constitution Center in Philadelphia. So I think right now he's actually in Center City, Philadelphia. It's pretty clear that this has been a battleground,
Wow.
and people have been engaged. Many of us doing voter engagement work have really been at it since May. We had our primary in May. May was a challenge for the primary because, we were at the height of the COVID lockdowns. We have, in the city of Philadelphia, we have typically more than 800 polling locations. And that was reduced to, I believe it was about 195, if I remember right, in May for the primary. So there were a lot of misinformation. A lot of people were confused where to go to vote, and a lot of people were left out of voting for those reasons. So myself included with a number of other people have really put forth the effort to make sure that there was not a repeat of that. And we had some key court decisions that went our way in Pennsylvania that helped out. So one of them, there was a grant that came through that allowed our voting commission to reopen the overwhelming majority of those offices. So we went from, I think it was 830, 840, something like that, down to less than 200. And now we're back up to about 800. So right around 800. The only ones that did not reopen were firehouses and senior centers because of COVID restrictions. So if your polling place was in a firehouse or a senior center, then it's at another place, and you got to make sure you find out where your polling location is. But all of the other locations, I'm at my church, in my church office now. Right on the other side of this door there's voting going on right now. So most of those sites have been reopened. That was a big win. The other win was when our county commissioners were allowed to open up satellite locations. So for the last 2 months or so, there have been 17 sites around the city of Philadelphia where you could vote early. It's not technically early voting. They're not technically polling places. They're technically satellite offices of the county commission. Okay. And the thing about Pennsylvania, you cannot, they could not vote. They could not count any of those votes until 8 o'clock this morning. So even though people have been voting for 2-3 months now, they could not start counting any of those until this morning. But it was still important because it gave an opportunity for people to use those drop boxes. So, there's a lot of distrust about the mail system and, people wondering if it's safe to mail their vote. This eliminated that and said, you don't have to mail your vote. You can fill out your mail-in ballot and bring it to one of these satellite locations, and you can put it there. There was also people to make sure you filled it out right. It was a game changer. It was really a game changer. It helped tremendously, and it's still helping even now, because if you requested a mail-in ballot, it's obviously too late to mail it now on the day of the election, but those drop boxes are still available until 8 p.m. tonight.
That's great. I want to ask you, here in Flint, Michigan, we're getting reports that there are these robocalls that are kind of devised to confuse voters. So the governor just came out recently saying, hey, I don't want there to be any misinformation. We acknowledge that these robocalls are putting out inaccurate information. The polls are going to be open until 8. Are you concerned about voter intimidation and voter suppression there in Pennsylvania?
I'm absolutely concerned. That's one of the reasons I decided to, actually come and be at the church physically, just in case something goes down. I want to make sure that I'm able to point to the right resources and call the right folks. The president called us out by name in one of the debates. He said bad things happen in Philadelphia, and he gave a directive. The sitting president of the United States told not only did he say, stand back and stand by to white supremacist groups, but he also instructed his supporters to show up at polls and quote unquote watch. But we know that's a dog whistle. So there have already been incidents. I think even today I heard on the radio coming in that there was a poll worker assaulted in South Philadelphia. I don't know what the context of that is, but we're prepared for anything. We're from Philadelphia, and we don't intimidate easy. So people can come if they want to, but we're ready. We're absolutely ready.
Thank you for that. I'm going to bring in Dr. Chandra Williams to join us. Hello there. I think you're on the road there, looking fly with the fly glasses there.
Hi, how are you? Hello, Dr.
Wright.
Hey, you ready?
Let's go.
Ready.
Go vote.
Come on, Dr. Williams.
Go vote. That's absolutely correct. I want to ask you both. I was talking again yesterday. I tried to cover different swing states. So, of course, and battlegrounds. I talked to a pastor in Texas, actually sitting in Houston, a pastor in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now I have the two of you on. I asked them yesterday, how do you reach a segment maybe that's not coming to church? So maybe, I don't know what the climate is like in Pennsylvania, but millennials aren't coming to church as much as we might want them, but we want them voting. So how have you reached out to them? And in these last hours, how can we reach out to them in Pennsylvania, maybe if they aren't engaged and activated or they're part of the apathy that's happening? What is your thought and plan for that?
Well, the thing for me is that I have my son who is very much engaged in the culture of music. He plays for a lot of culture artists such as Future and Meek Mills and some pop artists. And then I have a niece who just graduated from Hampton. And so, it's about being in touch with them. I've always been in great relationship with their friends and their colleagues. So I've always had those conversations. I think we all know somebody. And it's great that Dr. Wright is on here with me because our churches are in what you would call the hood. And so we can go right outside of our doors and see gentlemen on the corner. We can walk around our neighborhoods. I know that both of us do that often. So, in Brewery Town, they call me Save the World because, I'm out here trying to save all of the young men and all of the young women that I possibly can. And so if I have to walk them, just like I walk them to say, what do you need? I'm walking them in the neighborhood. Like you've got to vote. Encouraging family members who know that they're young people. So we are celebrating first-time voters, celebrating the millennials. There's DJs out here. There's food trucks out here. So we are really creating that environment where this is not grandmama's election. This is not your great-grandmama's campaign. This is for you. This is for you. So we are making it in the millennials and Gen Z, because Gen Z is 18 to 25, and so we're making it as festive and finding out what issues are relatable to them. Like, what are the issues that you are most concerned with, and we're bringing it home and making it as plain and making it as layman's terms as possible, so that they can see how this is going to affect them in the next 40 years, right? How is this going to affect you, your children, and your children's children? So if you don't do this now, and answering the questions, because a lot of them still have questions about Senator Harris's record. So answering those questions, letting them know about, the opportunities to go to community colleges for free education, home ownership, healthcare, just putting it in layman's terms so that they can understand it.
Okay. And Dr. Wright, anything you want to add to that about how you're engaging voters that might be considered on the periphery?
Yeah, well, I don't think we can leave any demographic unreached. We cannot afford to. And we've done everything. We've done neighborhood canvassing. We've had phone banking. I'll say this: we started with our own church. Our church, we have about 200 members or so, and we made sure that every single member got a call, and made sure that we walk with them, walk through it to make sure they had a plan. Are you going to vote on the day of? Are you going to vote early? Do you need a ride? All of those questions, and we engage them that way. But we also engage through the community. There's a number of organizations that I'm involved in who have done various types of canvassing work. And I haven't done it this election cycle, but in the past, I've literally, and the day is not over, so I still might make that move. I got somebody in the church with a pickup truck, and I have sat on the back of the pickup truck with a bullhorn, just driving around the neighborhood, telling people, go vote now. This is it. This is your time. So we do everything we can to reach our community. And then there are other means that we can reach a greater ends. But I also say don't underestimate the power of social media. This is an age where there are revolutions happening through social media. There are revolutions. Governments have been toppled through Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And you're reaching a community that you may not be able to reach beyond that. So, I know some people talk about, Facebook activism and things like that, but the reality is social media is a crucial tool that we have in our arsenal. So what I've been doing today is I've been just trying to put out information to help people, information about voting, information about some laws that can help people. Like, for instance, if you have, a lot of people don't realize, if you have COVID-19, if you're currently quarantined, because either you have COVID-19 or you have been exposed to someone with COVID-19 and you're not able to leave your house, by law in Pennsylvania, the county commissioners, by law, have to send someone, if you request it, to send someone to your house with an emergency absentee ballot. They'll send a sheriff's deputy or a representative from the office. So, there's so much information. Because there's so much misinformation out there, we have to get information out there to make sure that people are encouraged. One thing I've done in recent weeks has been dispelling the miscommunication and deliberate misinformation about our returned citizens, people who were formerly incarcerated. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, if you are an ex-convict who has been released, has served your time, you by law can register and can vote. A lot of people don't realize that. So even in my church, I had some people who were on probation and thought that they could not vote, and that was not true. You can vote. If you're on probation, you can vote. If you're on parole, you can vote. Even if you are currently incarcerated on a misdemeanor, you can vote. If you're awaiting trial for a felony, but have not yet been convicted, even while incarcerated in the county jail system or in the city jail, you can vote. The only ones who cannot vote are the ones who are currently incarcerated on a felony conviction. Just dispelling misinformation like that, because I talked about the Black folk, 200,000 Black registered voters who did not show up in 2016. Another number is the amount of formerly convicted people, the ex-convicts, the returned citizens who did not vote, either because they didn't know that they could vote or they just didn't. And that's an even larger number. There's more than 300,000 returned citizens in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So think about that. The president won in 2016 by about 44,000 votes, and there are more than 300,000 formerly convicted people who now have regained their right to vote. So there's more than enough to sway. The margin of error is well within that any of these can sway or change the results of the election.
Wow. That's great information, and we should share that as widely as we can because maybe people don't know that. You're right, Dr. Wright. I want to pivot slightly. I talked to, as I mentioned, folks in other states, and I raised these three questions so you can, or three parts. You can take any one of them if you will. Some people are voting their pockets today. Some people are voting their party today. Some people are voting their principle today. What would you speak to anybody who is singularly voting one of those things?
I would say vote your life.
Go ahead, Dr. Wright. Yeah. That's a loaded question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm voting my life. I'm voting my life. I am a Black man. I am a diabetic. I have buried people who have died from COVID, and the 200, I don't even know what the latest number is, 225,000 or more at this point, deaths of COVID disproportionately affect the African-American community, and they can be directly tied to policy decisions of this administration. And, you know, if you want to talk about voting your pocket, our economy is in shambles now. And that is directly connected to the mismanagement of COVID-19. So not only are we dying, but those of us who are still alive are dealing with an economy that has been impacted. So anywhere you slice it, I can give you a rundown. All of those reasons that you put, I can give you a reason based on those reasons that I'm supporting the Biden-Harris campaign.
Yeah, we're voting for the leader of the United States of America, not our pastor. And you know, and I've been saying this, that, you know, that's why I have spiritual advisors. So this is about humanity. This is about mankind. Will mankind be healthy? As we can see, he did not make the right leadership choices to keep us healthy. His cabinet does not make the right leadership decisions about our education. You know, and we know what the Bible says about money. The love of money is the root of all evil. And so he definitely leads with the love of money concept. So, you know, we need to, as Dr. Wright just, you know, so eloquently stated, this is about mankind. And we can see, you know, he was at a rally and they were saying, right, fire Fauci. His first act is going to be to fire Fauci. Really? And so we need to be voting for mankind. And that's why I believe that Biden-Harris is the best choice when it comes to humanity and to mankind.
And so I think I hear you all saying that you shouldn't have a singular focus. Is that a fair summation? That you shouldn't have a singular focus of just your pockets or just your party or just your principles or policy. You should have more composite focus. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would say in addition to that is, even if you have a singular focus, there is reason to examine who you're voting for that way as well. Dr. Williams.
Please, Dr. Wright, share that before Dr. Williams.
Yeah, I was going to say, because this is not just a selection for you. This is a selection for the entire country. And so we need someone in office who is thinking about everyone. You know, I think about the song that I used to sing at Vacation Bible School. Jesus loves the little children. All the children of the world, red and yellow, black and white, precious in his sight. So yes, there may be a specific your context, but this is about all mankind. This is about all mankind. Mm-hmm. So, you know, Dr. Wright and I, you know, we're on the same, we're saying the same thing.
Absolutely. And I know you know that there among us has arisen this faction of individual ruggedism versus community, right? People seem to be more concerned about self and self-preservation than community preservation, to say, are the children well or are the seniors well? If they are, then the village is well. Not everybody has this village mentality anymore, which is a whole other, you know, part of this discussion. But if you can share, so what would you say supporting the Biden-Harris ticket to people who say, I'm voting my pockets?
Well, I would remind everyone that it's all connected. And it just amazes me that this president is still trying to run on the economy. He's still president. I need to remind people that he is still president. All of this has happened under his watch. So if you're running on your pockets are not doing well right now. And if you want to dig deeper, the success in the early part of this administration was riding a wave that was begun by the Obama-Biden administration. It was those policies that dug us out of the hole we were in 2008 and got us to a place of prosperity. Now this president has taken that and squandered it. So I would say absolutely, please vote your pockets because this is not good for anyone's pockets. But I would, for me, it's bigger than pocket. It's about life itself. It doesn't matter how good the stock market is doing if me or my family members are dead. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter how good the stock market is doing if people are losing their jobs that their 401k plans are attached to. So we got to look at the big picture, even when it comes to finances.
I would say, and I agree with my brother to some degree, it depends on whose pockets. I do believe that there is a pocket that is benefiting from this. There's a pocket that will be benefiting from the vaccine and all the medical. But then I think there are some where we can see the Republicans. There's a big constituent of Republicans who are for Biden, who do believe the whole Bible and are not cherry picking. And so not only, should you vote your pockets, but you should also, again, vote your conscience and vote your heart and vote, the right way. So it's not just about how much money you're going to make out of this, but there are also people in the community who've lost their jobs. Everyone, has been affected. Everyone has lost someone, I believe. Now we have people who weren't wearing masks at the beginning. Governor Christie is singing another song. And so we have to be mindful that this does go beyond the pocket, but it also goes, again, you've got to vote for humanity. You got to vote your heart. The Bible, if you're biblical, the Bible says we ought to be taking care of the widows and the orphans. And so it is bigger than our pockets. It's also, again, about humanity and about our hearts.
Mm-hmm. And a perfect segue, I think you said something earlier about there are Republicans for Biden. And so that speaks right to that party. There are people who vote just party line, right? And so some of them might find the behavior of this current president reprehensible, but because they're Republicans, they're voting for him. What would you say to people about just sticking the party line without regard for the candidate that's supposed to be representing that party?
I would say that consider and remember. Go back. This goes back to what Dr. Williams was saying. Vote your conscience, not your party. I think a lot of Republicans should remember why they're Republicans and what are the ideals, or what have historically, at least for a generation, because we know that the party platforms change over time. But what have been the ideals of the Republican Party that drew people? And the notion of fiscal responsibility, the notion of Judeo-Christian values. There are some of the reasons that people have historically identified with the Republican Party have been thrown out of the window with this administration. He's spending up a storm, running up deficits. He's not fiscally conservative at all. I don't think anyone can name how many times he's bankrupted a company. And then you have to get to the issue of moral bankruptcy. So for a generation, the Republican Party were coming as the the quote unquote, now I never did really accept this, but they were coming at least under the platform of, we are the moral majority. We are the ones who are for family values and we're for fiscal responsibility. That has changed dramatically. And I think we would do well as a country if we could understand what are our actual values and then vote based on the values, not just on the party. So, I don't think there's a lot of Republicans who aren't, will not become Democrats. They may never become Democrats, but you do have the ability to evaluate every candidate in every race and figure out which is most in line with your ideals. And in this case, I think it would behoove everyone to do that examination, including our brothers and sisters who have historically identified with the Republican Party.
Yeah,
I want to talk to you both a little bit about
no, I was going to say, this is really making the rubber meet the road. I mean, this is really this is politics. I mean, at its worst, because now, to Dr. Wright's point, you have Republicans who they personally have a conscience and they personally have a heart, but there are people that voted you in, and you're trying to figure out what it is that your constituents want you to do. And so this is really, the rubber has really met the road with this candidate. Like, it has really met the road, because I mean, it's just evil. This is just evil. We are at a point where this is just evil, and you have to make the right decision.
You both talked a little bit about healthcare being important. What are the other things that are either policy or principle that are important to you that you want to just elevate right now?
In one word, democracy. I really believe, it's a cliche at this point that's been used by both campaigns, but it's really true. The soul of our nation is at stake. It's not just a matter of what policies are being put forth. It's a matter of the way this country operates. The rule of law, peaceful transition of power. Who are our allies worldwide versus those who we should approach cautiously. All of this has been thrown out of the window, and it has put us in a more dangerous place as a nation. We need someone with a steady hand. We need someone who has the right temperament and composure. We need someone who is experienced. We need someone who does not thrive on chaos. And I think we've seen over the last 4 years. You ask the question, how bad can it get? This is someone who thrives off of chaos and stoking violent elements of our nation that are absolutely dangerous and detrimental to the health of our country. So for me, that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, there's so many things on, but just someone who is presidential. I can name many Republicans that I would vote for over the one who's currently in the office. We have a Democrat running, but bottom line is we cannot move forward until we stop the bleeding of where we are right now.
Anything you want to add to that about your principles or policies that you want to elevate that are important to you?
I think they're pretty much the same. Our democracy is at stake right now. Have been to allow the next
And Dr. Williams, I know you're in motion. We're having some technical difficulty on my end with you. I don't know. We're not quite hearing. You're talking, but we're not quite hearing everything come through clearly. All right. Well, as we're trying to get a little bit of clearness on her, Dr. Wright, if you can just look into this camera before we close, and we're going to go back to Dr. Chandra. Looks like you're coming back in. I know you're on the go. I might have to have you pull over. You might have to pull over on the go.
She's on the move.
Yes. While she's coming back to us, look in the camera and tell people who might either not be decided at 2:06 p.m. that they're going to vote, or might still not be decided as to whether or not they're going to vote for Donald Trump or Joe Biden. What would you tell him or her?
I would say look at where we are as a country, not over the last 4 years. Look at the last 6 months. We have our routines have been disrupted. Our loved ones have died. Our economy has gone to shambles. People have lost their jobs. Businesses are closing left and right. Entire industries have been disabled because of the mismanagement of this administration, because of the chaos of this administration. It is all connected, and there's so much diversion being put out there to get people to forget. Even in the debates, it's like the strategy of the Trump administration has been to blame Obama and Biden for everything, as if he's not president. Mm-hmm. This is his watch. There are literally commercials. The Trump administration has put out commercials that are telling people to be fearful of a potential Biden administration, what Biden's America will look like. And the dystopian videos that they've been displaying are actual footage from the Trump administration. The unrest in our streets happened under his watch. The virus and the mismanagement thereof has happened under his watch. But even before that, racism, stoking white supremacy, and empowering them to have a prominence in our society that we have not seen since the Jim Crow era. It's happened under his watch. There's always been racists, but we got to a point culturally where it wasn't publicly acceptable to be overtly racist. That has now flipped on its head. Now overt racism has returned. It's all happened under this watch. This happened in his first administration. I shudder to imagine what could happen if he gets 4 more years.
And Dr. Williams, looks like you're back with us. Good. Look in the camera and tell us, people that are undecided.
Well, look at the road, but talk to the camera.
Please look at the road. Please look at the road. Please look at the road. That are undecided or have decided not to vote.
I'm not driving.
Yes, I can hear you.
So I want to piggyback off of my brother, Dr. Wright. Where from here? There has always been racism. I went to elementary school with racists. I went to college with racists. But where do we go from here? And so the question becomes, who can help us to navigate begin the next 40 years of healing, navigate us into healing? We had a president who took away an entire division whose responsibility was to just look at epidemics and look at what happened. So who can clean up this mess? And if you want people who can clean it up with integrity, I think about Dr. Wright. I think about a Dr. Shaw who took the National Convention with the visa and got us. Some people are just built to bring us out of turmoil. And so I think I believe right now that the Biden-Harris ticket can take us where we need to go, where we are with this pandemic of racism, this pandemic of COVID, student loans, mental illness, the police reform. The Biden-Harris ticket is what can take us into the future and begin the healing of where our American, the soul of this country is. Get up and go vote. If you are a parent, I've been saying this for the past couple months. Cancel Christmas. If your children don't go and vote, cancel Christmas. There will be no Christmas if you don't get up and vote. Bring everybody and lottie-dottie. Make sure they vote by 8 o'clock. If you're in line, they cannot put you out of line at 8 o'clock. Go vote. That's so right. That we can start the healing process of the soul of this country getting back to where it needs to be.
Thank you so much. And if voters run into harassment or intimidation, is there a hotline in Pennsylvania outside of the national hotline? Is there a hotline number that they can reach out to?
There is.
But I know that Dr. Wright may have it, but I know that our district attorney has been out there. District DA Larry Krasner has been to the polls, and he's making sure that the voter intimidation is handled. And so I don't know, Dr. Wright, if you have it offhand.
Yeah, I have it. It's 1-877 votes PA. 1-877 votes PA. And that's the number for any kind of voter intimidation. There's as Dr. Williams was saying, our DA has formed a task force specifically to address voter intimidation.
Okay. Thank you both. Go ahead.
We need you, Pena. Come on.
Let's do it.
Yes, we need you to be all blue, Pennsylvania. As you heard earlier, Dr. Wright said 44,000 votes.
That's it.
Would have made the difference in the last election. And there were 300,000 returning citizens and 200,000 African-American registered voters that did not vote. What a difference that would make in the turnout for the state going blue. Here in Michigan, when we say go blue, we mean University of Michigan. But I think nationally, we're saying go blue to ensure that we get the results that will bring us the kind of change and restore some faith in the highest office in the land. Thank you, Dr. Clarence Wright, for joining us. Dr. Chandra Williams, we wish you much success there in Pennsylvania. Go blue.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Well, you heard it from Pennsylvania's two of their great voices being elevated there. As you can see, they are on the ground, and they say in the hood and everywhere else. You even heard Dr. Wright saying he's thinking about getting back in that pickup truck with the bullhorn, just to ensure that everybody understands it's critical for you to make it to the polls by 8 o'clock p.m. Your voice, your vote matters. And especially in swing states, battleground states, such as Pennsylvania, it's important that you get there. You heard Dr. Wright say 44,000 votes would have made the difference in the 2016. Your one vote might make the difference. Don't hold it at home. Get to your polling location now and vote. Your voice matters. Marcus Holmes here from Love and Stuff. I'm grateful that you will share this widely. I know you will, because you want Pennsylvania and Ohio and Michigan and Wisconsin and Texas and Florida, among other states, to go blue. We'll be back with you later on just to check in with you. Thank you so much for joining.